of times when I say use a retinoid, a lot of times I recommend Luminate. And the reason is every single person on the face of the earth, if you've got skin, by the age of 35, you will have abnormal pigment.
Yeah.
And if you don't have obvious areas on the face where there's contrasting pigment, you have what's called background pigment. So background pigment, you know, look at a picture of yourself when you're 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever, and the skin just isn't as crisp. It's not as luminant, vibrant, even, has that really crisp clarity. That's background pigment. And they've done focus groups where they look at people with pigment disorders or pigmentary changes and people with lines and wrinkles, and oftentimes they guess the people with the pigment as being older than the people with lines and wrinkles.
Wow.
So there's some revolutionary technology where we can address the pigment at the same time that we also kind of de-age the appearance of skin.
Which is another reason you got to use that antioxidant. You've got to make sure you've got that sunscreen on every day, as you said, because I mean, that in the facial room is the hardest thing to get rid of. When you get that hyperpigmentation, it is the hardest. And what I love, and for those of you guests that are coming in, I will show you, Jan Marini's done a great job in all the photographing and the documentation, but you can actually see, you know, there's forefront damage, and you can use a woods lamp and you can kind of see all of that. So it's incredible, but we can prevent that just by using proper skincare on a regular basis.
Well, you know, pigment is a really complex issue. So when you look under the woods lamp and you see that pigment, what you're looking at is you're looking at what's called epidermal pigment. And if you have dermal pigment, in other words, I could have two spots of pigment on my face. They could look exactly the same. Under the woods lamp, one will show up. That will be epidermal. The one that doesn't show up, if it doesn't, it's dermal. Now, and there's a real important reason why it's good to know that, because the way that pigment lightening agents work is it doesn't matter whether it's prescription hydroquinone, it doesn't matter what it is, what anybody tells you, they have to interact with something called active tyrosinase, and that goes into the manufactured pigment and how it can get thrown off unevenly. And you only have active tyrosinase in the epidermis. So this has to be something else. Now, one thing I'm going to mention, this real game changer. This is really unique. We actually, Luminate facial lotion, the study on that was published in a peer-reviewed medical journal, the Journal of Drugs and Dermatology. And peer-reviewed medical journals are highly scrutinized, and it can take months, it can take years to be accepted in a peer-reviewed medical journal, because normally you're not going to see skincare stuff in there. You're going to see stuff on cancer and on all kinds of skin disorders and physical disorders. But this was a study in which it went head-to-head comparison with prescription hydroquinone, and it outperformed prescription hydroquinone. Now, one of the reasons why is because in addition to tyrosinase inhibitors, everybody has a melanocyte signaling hormone in their skin. Now, if you are really fair skin, you're a redhead with freckles, or you have really darkly pigmented skin, you've got pretty much the same amount. But you may have more if you're pregnant. You may have more on birth control pills. And so it plays a role genetically in how you're going to react. So some people, as you know, go out in the sun for 10 minutes and they pigment. Some people sit in a car and they pigment. And for the first time, what this does is this downregulates that melanocyte stimulating hormone. But in addition, there's retinol in the product, and there's tyrosinase inhibitors, and there's some other really unique game-changing technology as well. So we can de-age the appearance of skin, we can dramatically address the appearance of discoloration, and oftentimes very rapidly. But it's something you have to do all the time. There's no
It's just like throwing that blanket over a burning fire, and the Luminate just helps that. The tyrosine inhibitor just like tells the skin to calm down. We don't need all your help up here. It just like gets it to like be in place so that it's not sending up all that, so we don't get the inflammation, so we don't have to correct the problem. So just putting that in place, especially that along with your sunscreen, makes a huge difference.